We Santo Man Kolnyang Mike Sholgrangawan Yuping Yarul Pandiri Shet Maniel Anaketon Niel Jilo Wenetona Dol. I think a kick, Gabuka, Devo, Anyaling and ya Kuika Pingrin, Gemana, when I jang along, I do Kagaparami, Madina Maja, Kubo, Makur, Kagaboli, Kuaita Tiang, Wagarade, Kegela, Emmanuel, whenever you go, I think a kick,
Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to Lake Media. My name is Abraham Medin Majak. Welcome Honorable Peter Mayen, and also my co-host and host Majungaku. For those of you who are coming in, please share the video, and I will this time I will hear my back to you, Majo, so you can continue, can take over, so that you can go ahead with our guests. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abraham Adit. To our viewers, wherever you are tuning in, welcome to Lake Media and Beyond Boundaries. And for that reason, our today conversations will focus much on political affairs of our country. The guests in the studio with us today, most of you are familiar with him. He's somebody that has been in political arena for the last years, and he has committed himself to the agreements. He was part and parcel of the agreement, and up to date, he continue engaging in a political arena, whether he's silent or active. And I believe for the last 1 week, most of you have watched his press. He came out with the people of his party, and they gave a very solid information, of which he clearly indicated that he's back to politics full time. And through that, he has a call for South Sudan, because maybe South Sudan has missed his ideas, and we really need him to come back and share his wisdom and thoughts in regard to the political affairs of our country. As most of you are aware, South Sudan is in a critical condition as per now, politically, economically, and otherwise. And for that reason, Lake Media is fully backed for the next 2 months. We will be engaging thoroughly with our political leaders in our country in order to dig deep into their thoughts and their ideas. Permit me, our viewers, before I introduce our guest, to request you for simple things. Please, if you are watching us, share this live show. Our most intentions is South Sudanese to gather behind this show or below this show and listen to our guest. And through that, you will be in a better position to have a clear information of what is it and what is not. Because there is a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and sometimes rampant propaganda always tend to endanger the political class of our country. The guest in the studio today is Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit. He is a signatory to the Revitalized Peace Agreement, which was signed in 2018, and he has been constantly engaging with the political class in our country. And for that, give me a few minutes to give chance to our guest to give us his opening remark. As I said earlier, our conversation will surround around the political issues, basically on his party or his alliance, which is OPP, and broadly to uh, the agreement. Then after agreement, we'll move down to the issues of the partner of the agreement, which is the SPLM-IO. And thereafter, we'll move down to the issue of elections, whether we are optimistic or not. Through that, that is where our conversation will be. Secondly, we will not take much of your time as the viewers. Basically, we'll take more than or less than 1 hour, if I'm not wrong, depending with our conversation. Honorable Peter, welcome to Lagos State Media for your second time. It is your platform. You always come here. And if you hear me saying Lagos State Media, we just changed the name last week to be Lex Media for inclusivity of all South Sudanese. If we add a state, and then it will seem like it is part of the state in South Sudan called Lagos State. So we are actually trying to engage the whole country. South Sudan is full of lakes, and the lakes are all South Sudanese, despite the tribes, despite their religions, and all other affiliations, especially politically. You are welcome, Honorable. The platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Lake Media, and highly appreciated for the broadened coverage and the extensions beyond the borders of Lake States. It is actually of a high time that South Sudanese need to engage in a very constructive dialogue in order to brainstorm, particularly the country is at a junction at a critical time. We all do know that apparently we do have the revitalized agreement on the conflict of resolution in South Sudan, which is the only legitimate ground lead to the formation of the Artigono, which is basically is a transition process that should end at elections at the end of these transitions. The R-ARCSS as a framework, which is comprehensive, which has been designed in order to address major root causes and prepare the country towards long-lasting stability and toward democracy and pave way to a newly elected government that should come at the end of the transition. Of late, for sure, all of us, whether in or out, the world at large has witnessed a scenario or a situation that actually we could say that has put the peace agreements in a jeopardy. Actually, the violations of the agreements continued. The ceasefire is not holding, confrontations, conflict, and as well as lack of political will. So we would say overall the history of this R-ARCSS, it has never reached to this stage where we are in today, including one of the main partner to the agreement is also under arrest until for reason that remains unknown until today. And all of this, we could say it has created a very difficult situation. And that's why we, the OPP, given our belief, we believe in a democratic transformations, we believed in people-driven process. We have called for an urgent dialogue, what we said it should be Juba initiative of the parties, so that all the political parties that are signatories to the R-ARCSS could be able to sit down and dialogue in order to address the outstanding issues and recommit themselves to the implementation of the R-ARCSS, bearing in mind that the R-ARCSS is the only available tool that can actually deliver South Sudan out of this situation. We do this in sense of urgency because we do know this is now the second extension of the transition period, and for the same reason, for the same obvious, And the most difficult part, or the most alarming part about this is it has issues to do with the legitimacy of the country itself. In other words, to say is that if the agreements or the transition period ends, and where the conditions for elections are not met, an election is not done, and that means you will have arrived to the end of the tunnel, and therefore you have pushed the country to lack of a legitimate government that comes in place. So the country will lose legitimacy. Yes, it will remain as independent and several country state, but you will not have an legitimate government. And we have seen from the history what it means when a government of any country loses its legitimacy. It faces a lot of legitimate crisis, and it takes a long time to bring this back together. So that's why the OPP under my leadership say that they must be there, and I need to have a dialogue to be able to discuss issues frankly, call a spade, and see how best and what needed to be done in order to favor way to have an end, a peaceful transition at the end of the day that ends with the democratic elections. That means basically the dialogue has to bring all the parties together, and each party will definitely table their grievances. And of course, with the help of the grantors and mediators, now we could be able to see where and each party has gone wrong, and we see how those violation and grievances can be addressed, and how and what needed to be done within the remaining month before the end of the transitions, and what can actually be left for the next elected government that comes in place. So rather than actually focusing on blames of what is that the party X have done this, but this one has done this one has done this, let's face the reality. The reality, of course, we have the guiding, which is the agreement itself. And by the guiding of the agreements, we can be able to fetch out and say this party has overlapped its responsibility. They have committed violations here and there. Rather than blames, then we can be able to forge away and have a new understanding, and even go further and look at obstacle that is making it very difficult to implement the agreements. So that's why we're saying this urgent call is very important, and this country cannot be left as such. The parties cannot talk to each other. People don't want to talk the truth, and beneficiaries and the spoilers of the peace and the enemies of South Sudan who are within, and they are South Sudanese, and continue to cause a lot of confusion. We definitely will come back to it later. So that's the status where things are. I have come back because I have seen the country is in danger, and nobody is taking an effort. Everyone is interpreting the agreement the way they want. People wanted to put their selfish interests first above, and they do not see the danger that lies ahead. You look at it, we spent almost 5 years, so we have come a long way to implement these agreements. And then at the end of the tunnel, when we are just about remaining with months, then comes in and deliberately try to throw the agreement into the dustbins and says, okay. To me, I see it is more like a suicide actually towards the future of this country.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for that introductory part, and for highlighting the main themes of your press, which you did last week. To be honest, Honorables, you will tell us more. You coming back to politics, and you started engaging, and you have mentioned that you have seen a loophole in the parties to the agreement, that nobody is taking responsibility and nobody is engaging the two partners to work peacefully and to respect the principles of the agreement. Since you start coming back to politics, Honorable, what step have you taken so far? Because we have seen that citizens are worried between the SPLMIO itself and SPLMIG. What step have you taken so far so that people could see that indeed you are not calling for a mere dialogue, but you are calling dialogue with actions? And many people, I think, are happy with what you are doing, because two warring parties can never call themselves to sit down. And if there is a third party, then the mediation is simple and people can give listening ear too. Kindly, can you tell us the step that you have taken, either to approach the SPLMIO and approach the government, especially the SPLM, the mother party, and see how best they can try to engage in dialogue? Thank you.
Actually, when I came back, what I found everyone is afraid to speak the truth. And what I find that the peace spoilers are actually misleading the public, and they are also misleading the principles. I had also came and find already a hatred and a lot of misunderstanding has been created between the parties themselves. So that's why we have to start with the reality itself. The reality and the fact is that those parties, yes, they were rivals. So there's nothing to be said about that. But they have come together to have an agreement. And once you have an agreement, that means you cannot agree with yourself. You have to agree with the second or the third party. And if you have agreed with the second and the third parties, you must talk to your partner. You cannot avoid and say that we will not talk to the SPLM-IO under Dr. Riek Machar, or we will not talk to SAWA, we will not talk to OPP. So that is completely one of the things we have found out that is absolutely is unthinkable, because as long as you have an agreement, that means you have a contract, you have an understanding. Otherwise, unless you say that the agreement has collapsed, and if the agreement has collapsed, that means there should be no legitimate government. As long as saying that the agreement has not collapsed, the agreement is holding, then people must speak to each other. That means those who have grievances must speak to each other. So first of all, we have said that that's why the dialogue is important. Dialogue has to be initiated. President Salva Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar, not only the two of them, but all of us, the five parties, need to come to the table, and each and every party will articulate itself. This scenario apparently whereby one party is a complainer, and the same party is also he is the police that have detained people, is the same party that investigating the people, and it is also the same party that is judging without the involvement of any party. So we all believe that it is really important significantly that all these parties must be brought in, and each party has a grievances. Even the OPP, we do have grievances. We do have issues. We have issues whereby there has been their involvement, and the same thing to SAWA and the same thing to the SPLMIG. So the first thing on this is principally to accept the fact that these parties need to talk to each other. I have come and also find out the peace spoilers such as Dr. Martin Elia Lombro had held a press conference telling the people of South Sudanese that this agreement is made of so many parties, and if as such one of the party of the agreement is not on the agreements, then people can move on. Basically, it's referring to the SPLM-IO under the leadership of Dr. Riek Machar, which is absolutely very, very misleading, because the agreement is designed in a way that Dr. Riek Machar is mentioned in the agreement by name. President Salva Kiir is mentioned in the agreement by names. And therefore, replacing any of the two, that means the agreement, it is collapsed. Okay, so and absolutely there is no any other alternative which is provided to the agreement as the replacement. And we also came to talk to South Sudanese that let's call a spade a spade. Let's face the reality. The reality, whether you hate, you don't like the SPLM-IO, or you don't like the SPLM-IG, you don't like President Kiir, you don't like Dr. Riek, the fact still remains that both of them must work together to implement this agreement. The only departure junction that they will have, it is an election at the end of the transition. So this is a fact. So, and this fact has been undermined. And of course we do know those spoilers, peace spoilers, they have done this before. This thing was done, and we know the result of it. And also we also came here to fight and enlighten South Sudanese that the game has to stop towards invading or creating political coups. The other step, which is very important, is that they must be there as a session of hostility. All hostility need to stop because it's meaningless. It adds no meaning where you have an agreement where both parties have agreed to cease hostility, and yet people are continue to fight. What would it be? For what benefit? Even if, let's say, the white army wipe out all the SSPDF, and what will it add to the SSPDF if it all whited move out the white army? So there is a need that those parties needs to be brought down to table, and people have to speak the truth. There is the truth that SPLM-IO is connected to the white army, is undeniable truth, and this have to now to be seized because the agreement says, as during this time, no any other armed forces that should continue to exist. Modality need to be discussed as far as the disarmament is concerned. So actually avoiding discussions, it is not helpful and it's not good. People must acknowledge that these five parties, they are parties to the agreement, and they all must work together. We have seen this scenario, it has continued, a scenario whereby, I mean, a group, and the best scenario is currently, which is existing now in the SPLM-IO, where you have a group that is led by Taban, by Pal, and you also have the other group that is in exile. So all these frictions is unhealthy to this agreement. And what we are saying that all parties must come to the table, people must dialogue. And no one should reject dialogue. And if you have a case, it's absolutely important that you bring your case to the table. Some people need to discuss to this. And we have to ensure that those peace spoilers, those who are translating the agreements into their own ways of translation or interpretations, creating institution which does not exist in the agreements and things that are not there, really need to be told time is over, because we only remains with month, and this month we must come together and discuss and dialogue and recommit ourselves to the full implementation of the agreements, implement what we can within the transition period now to end the transition favorably towards a democratic elections where an elected government will come in place.
Thank you, Honorable. Before we come back to the questions of credibility of agreement, what is the stance of your colleague, especially the SOA?
In regards to the dialogue?
Yes, in regard to the call from OPP.
Of course, no, nobody, there has not been any kind of hesitation or resistance within SOA, particularly after SOA was able to regain back the legitimate leaderships in power. And I think the SOA now is moving at the right track, and SOA is not, as far as the relationship with, I mean, the position of SOA has always been similar to the position of OPP. And we do believe that there should be no party that should reject the dialogue, because basically, unless a party that's saying is benefiting and absolutely does not have the interests of South Sudan at heart. Because what do we need? You need peace. We need stability. We need a conducive environment where South Sudanese can be able to freely express themselves, freedom of speech, an environment that shows that for sure elections will be credible. And each party now, they have to prepare themselves towards elections, because basically I don't think there's any party that is willing to do this extension anymore. The previous extension, we extended it at a really very shameful environment. We couldn't even face South Sudanese to tell them that we are extending. We did it through mechanisms, and we were shameful for that. And I don't think there's no one is willing toward that. But of course, there are individuals within the government, the like of the cabinet minister, Dr. Martin Elia Lomoro, has been in engineering a lot of coups. These things was done within SOA. SOA has to continue battling among themselves until late things were resolved. He has also did these things within the OPP, bringing people that are not party they are not members of OPP into governments and intimidating everybody. And now they have also invaded what is today called the Pan Africa Group of PAL, and to bring them into different parallel groups. So all of these divisions are basically not just to weaken the party, but to confuse the agreements, to make it very much hard, to make it very difficult in order the agreement cannot be implemented. Because you cannot implement the agreement with two parties in the same, in the same umbrella. You can't. You cannot say it's now we have SPLM-IO under PAR, we have SPLM-IO under Riek Machar. This is absolutely a lie. The agreement put the name of Dr. Riek Machar absolutely by name. And even nobody within the IG can make a coup against the president because the agreement says the president Salva Kiir. So those names are mentioned in the agreements. So the fact is that this divides and rule, this students' politics, it has to stop. It has to stop that there is no way each party we must deal with the parties that are in. For instance, if your leader is removed or if your leader is arrested, Dr. Riek is not the first leader to be arrested. There are so many political leaders who are arrested. Once a leader arrested, he's in jail. Does it mean that a new leader should emerge up? Absolutely. He has his duty, that's his job. And if the duty is not there, the Secretary General will do that. And this thing was imposed on them in order to create divisions. And now, even if now you create that division, what will be your goal? That means you want people to be confused, end up with no elections, and people lose legitimacy. Then what is the point of that? That's absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you, Honorable, for that. Let's move to the questions of the agreement. Many political commentators refer agreements that agreement has collapsed, and others says agreement is not collapsed, and we are still following the agreement, especially the government officials on both sides. And if I said government officials, I'm referring everybody, inclusive of all the political parties that were brought together are the results of a national government of national unity, rather. Kindly, can you tell us what is your opinion in that? And how is the status of the agreement so far?
The agreement is alive so far. It's, you could say, sick if you want to use a number. It has not collapsed because none of the parties to this agreement has declared the agreement collapsed. The SPLM-IG did not declare the agreement collapsed. The SPLM-IO did not declare the agreement collapsed. SAWA did not declare, the OPP did not declare. But the fact is that there are issues in this agreement and those issues need to be addressed. And one of the issues is that there is no way we can continue implementing the agreements when the parties cannot sit down and they cannot talk to each other. Once people talk to each other, issues and grievances can be addressed. And that means also there is no way we can continue implementing the agreement with the fights and conflict, hostility. People must cease hostilities and people must go back to implement this agreement in the spirit and letter. So this is a fact. So these are the real factors that is facing this agreement. Honestly speaking now, just to highlight some few things, the way forward to this agreement is basically to bring 8 parties back to the table with the help of the mediations, as I stated earlier, and then those parties will definitely bring up their grievances. Even the IG, they have their grievances, which some of us feel they have a legitimate claims, they have a legitimate issues that actually should be addressed. But those issues cannot be addressed, separately, unless they have to be addressed in a forum, so that other follow South Sudanese and everyone could see, yes, of course, the SPLM-IG has a point here. But with this kind of hostility, with these kinds of violations, with this kind, it definitely is not going to be. It's not going to be helpful. The focus now, it seems to be on positions. Okay, fine. Even if all positions are taken, held by one party, then will December 26 not come? And once December 26 have come, with no elections have been held, even if you hold elections that are not credible, no one is going to accept the legitimacy and the outcome of those elections. Therefore, you will have done zero. And even if you continue to rule, you will be continuing to rule on a government that is not legitimate, that's government that is not recognized. So we have not to lose sight of this point. And then what is the point for all the last 5 years, 3 years of the transition, 2 years extension, 2 years extensions, and then at the end now, you just want to ruin the whole thing, basically because of there is a confusion and people have come in. We do believe as OPP seriously on the leadership of the SPLM-IG. If directed properly, made to understand, they can be able to help and support us other parties in implementation of this agreement, including the SPLM-IO. But this wrong interpretation that is coming in, for instance, you look at the recent committee that was formed. This recent committee, the members actually that represented those positions, who represented the high-level committee for implementation, they were not endorsed and they did not come from their parties. So it was something just done by the Cabinet Affairs Minister, gave it to the President, and then came out as degree. And of course, he has failed the NPTC for quite long. He failed it for during the time of the National Pre-Transition Committee. And therefore, we need a new committed people that can be able to face this. So the dialogue, the outcome of dialogue can really be very good. And the dialogue, we believe that will address each and everything.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for that. Indeed, many South Sudanese, especially the citizens, believe that agreement was the only clear path where South Sudan can walk through and end up with the elections or democratic process, whereby it will produce one government. And through that, South Sudanese were hoping that they will be having that elections. But by the look of things, things are falling apart every day. And on a daily basis, our political class are trying to betray the hope of the citizens. Kindly, can you tell us the issues of the SPLMIO, the SPLMIG, and how you see the possibilities of having elections by the end of 2026 or by the end of roadmap extension? And through that, you will look at the three group of the SPLMIO. We have the two groups in Juba, the group which is still with Mama Angelina, and then the group outside, which is the SPLMIO in diaspora, or in exile rather, and then the group led by Honorable Pal. Kindly, can you tell us, now you are calling for the dialogue. Are you going to start with the SPLMIO, the internal dispute, or you are going to start where? And I need you to make something clear on that. Thank you.
The internal disputes within the SPLM-IO were engineered. The internal disputes within the SPLM-IO, they were engineered. It's not something that just came as a result of a cause of the events and how things worked in. The SPLM-IO was not divided. The division happens after the arrest of Dr. Riek Machar. And after the arrest of Dr. Riek Machar, now the people whom Jesus called them people of weak faith, people who do not have principles, people who do not have visions, those opportunists came together with the engineers, okay, of those who engineer schools, okay, and then now they came together with the pretext that if the leadership is under arrest, then there must be there an interim leader. What brain can perceive that as far as the structure of high ranking of how things move in? When a leader is not there, the duty takes over. No more process. And there's no way you can leave the duty out and the Secretary General out, and then you bring in another person and you say is an interim chair. Even a farm in the village can understand this. And then at the same time, you're working very hard to endorse this group. So who doesn't see it as a political coup? All of us are watching. Even if people don't say it's a political coup because they were afraid to be arrested, it is a political coup. And then, okay, if it's a coup, it's not a coup. It's none of other parties' business. Yes, indeed, it's none of other parties' business. But it has implication with the implementation of the agreement. It has the implication of the implementation of the agreement. And when the agreement is not implemented, there are those who will be held responsible, of which I have said I'm one of them. And that's why we're saying the like of Dr. Martin Eliel Moro, okay, need to be isolated and declared as a peace spoil in this country. Now, is this the only politics South Sudanese understand? If you look at the history, you will find it is just political coups within organization after the other. There is no political party that can offer a substantial alternative based on ideas and policies and the vision that they have towards South Sudanese. None. Okay, if Riyadh is relief, will now the interim chairpersons hand over the chairmanship? As for those who went to diaspora or those who rent out, of course, it's a nature thing. People fear their lives. And then it's better you declare the agreement invalid and it's not there. Then you can do with anything that you want to do with the opposition. You can now arrest them. That have the one managed to escape is escape. The one managed to remains. But as long as you are saying the agreement is alive, and if the agreement is alive, with whom are you agreeing? If the very people you are agreeing, then you need to be hostile to them. Then again, the biggest question is, what is the point of hostility? Are you afraid of them? Coming elections, they will win? You don't want to face them in election? And if you believe that you are okay, people supports you, you can win elections, then what is the point for this hostility? If it is related to security issues, should be treated as security issues separately from involving politics. So what had happened in SPLM-IO is a political coup engineered and supported, not by IG, but those who claim to be allied to IG. And those who claims to be the ally to IG, for the purpose of confusion. So what we do know, we are dealing with the people that their names are in the agreement. And there's no way here you can ever endorse and legitimize anybody in between. And they should learn a lesson. This thing was done. Why did we have now what was so-called the SPLM-IO of Riak and SPLM-IO of Taban? It was done previously in the history. It fails because it lacks vision. So Dr. Martin Elia with his groups should stop completely, okay, engineering those political coups. And the government need to be focused, accept the reality that I have issues with the opposition has offended me, and call for, I support this dialogue, and they will come and articulate the issues. And I think that is the position as far as PLM-IO is concerned.
Thank you, Honorable, for highlighting what South Sudanese want to hear from you in regard to the SPLMIO. You have mentioned that what happened in SPLMIO is basically a political coup, and it was engineered by a group that claimed to be allies to the SPLMIG. And you stated very clearly that it is not SPLMIG. Do you suspect that you have mentioned one person name, which is the Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Dr. Martin Eliel Moro? You mentioned his name. Do you believe Martin Eliel Moro has some elements from other political parties who are so much into spoiling these agreements and continue serving in the government or continue serving their own interests? That's what you are saying?
Yes, indeed. With a lot of, with a lot of evidence. First and foremost, his perceptions and understanding that this agreement can continue with the SPLM without SPLM-IO is completely wrong. Secondly, who is he and what is his role in the agreement? Martin leads a group of political parties that are in the government, called other political parties in the government. But he comes in and creates something called the national agenda within the other political parties in the government. The political parties in government all have one principle, which is President Salva Kiir Mayardit. So there are three groups: the former government of the Republic of South Sudan, which are commonly referred to as SPLM, the SPLM-IG, and political parties that are allied to them, and the SPLM-IO group of Taban. Dr. Martin Elia went as far as calling himself a principal to the agreement, when his name is not in the agreement, and even creating and moving as far as making, having a whip in the parliament. He appoints his own ministers under as if he is a principal. He's not a principal. He's a confusion maker. So his understanding and interpretation about this agreement is deeply affecting the implementation. Yes, to be friend, to have a good relationship with the president, to be an ally to president, is not a question of the agreement. That is a personal issue. But your actions and your thinking and your attitudes, and as a cabinet minister, he has those leverages of power, and previously imposed himself as a secretary for the National Pre-Transition Committee, and today he's continued to impose himself in several committees. So he has played a major role, particularly with the delay of implementation and extension. And people, parties, those who have been opposing to extension, you could remember previously have been strongly opposing towards extension of the transition. Those one, he makes sure that they are eliminated outside the cabinet, and they are eliminated outside the system. So he brings in people. Actually, the whole thing is that they want to bring in people, okay, that can they can easily direct them the way they want it to be directed. Forgetting this is an agreement, and it has people that are mentioned in this particular agreement. So for sure, the evidence that the SPLM-IG is not the person that have engineered this political coup in the government. Otherwise, they would have probably appointed the Minister of Peace, Pal, as the first vice president a long time ago. Despite still, until today, they're still really pushing a lot of pressure very hard, so that this group is endorsed. And even if it's endorsed, where will they go? Will Dr. Riak die in prison? It's not question whether you hate Dr. Riak or you don't like Dr. Riak. Okay, I do believe there are majority that don't like Dr. Riak. There are majority also do not like President Kiir. But what option do they have? President Kiir is the president of the republic. Dr. Riak is the chairman of the SPLM-IO that have signed the agreement. Peter Mayen is a signatory of OPP. So these are facts. So this one now, once we confront them, South Sudanese actually know them, that they are peace spoilers, and they do not have anything to offer as alternative to South Sudanese, then it makes it easier. Because, you know, in Arabic, or when a thief is known, okay, it becomes very difficult to find avenue to steal, because once a cornerman, so when you comes to a forum or anything, people will know, oh, who is this HR? So people will know this. So once they are now identified clearly, like now, you will not cheat anybody to come and say that I'm a principal to the agreement. You know, South Sudanese will ask him, where is your name? He will not go and say that there is something called national agenda as part of the agreement. People will know that 55%, all of this is allocated to SPLM. So rather, it's very funny that he goes on looting the SPLM position, taking from SPLM position and say it's National Alliance, okay? And then the SPLM comes and loot from the SPLM IO and OPP. Where else the engineer, he has played in a very smart way. So he shouldn't be allowed completely. And with them, with plus some of few others, we with time will continue to expose them. So the future of this country lies on pressuring and letting these people to sit down, accept themselves. We do not want them to have any kind of friendship that they want. No, but whatever we want from them is for them to implement this agreement, so that whatever the agreement says, it should be implemented. Funding need to be available for election commissions. Hybrid code need to be formed. Election commission should come up with electoral college. Freedom of speech needs to be there. And these are the things that we need. They must cease hostility. Everyone talk to their loyalists to cease hostility, whether armed confrontation or any other means. So this is what things we need to be done now. And I think by South Sudanese coming out loud and clear and demand for this kind of things, it will be very great. We are actually thinking to go much more further if our voices are not heard, to organize more civil process whereby people, the grassroots is involved to demand for peace and accountability.
Thank you, Honorable. Before we move to the next questions and leave the issues of SPLMIO, there is the last question, which was displayed here on the screen, asking that the SPLMIO deputy chairperson, or yet Nathaniel, is outside South Sudan and he left South Sudan. He has flew the country. Who do you think will take over the SPLMIO when Dr. Riek Machar is under house arrest and his deputy or yet is not in Juba? So according to your own opinions, or how do you suggest? While you will be answering that questions, I need you also to touch base on what should be the way forward within the SPLMIO. What should they do first for them to come together? Thank you.
Okay, I think the last question is I think everyone could answer, even yourself you could answer. There is a high ranking which usually goes down. So if the chair is not there, then the deputy should take. If the deputy is not there, the secretary assumes those powers. And if there is an interim, it should be done in a different not with the motive of a political coup. Secondly, when it comes to what is needed to be done within the SPLMIO, what do you need to be done? This group, they were very intelligent enough. They did not say we have overthrown our chairman or we have replaced him. They say they are acting. So if the dialogue happens and the chairman come back to his seated in his chair, so what is else again? And if they continue identify themselves as a different IO, then we'll go and see which IO leadership does the agreement say. You will find there's what the IO leadership which is recognized in the agreement is the IO leadership under Dr. Riek. So this is very clear. It's not a question. Personally, of course, is a fact. Is a fact. So as much as you don't like that, but that is the reality.
Thank you, Honorable. Basically, you are saying what will bring the SPLMIO together or under one umbrella is the release of Dr. Riek. That's what you mean?
Of course, according to the law, Dr. Riek, until today, as we speak, is perceived to be innocent because the law says every accused person is innocent until proved otherwise. Okay? So whoever that is detained is innocent. legally. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable. Let's move to the question of elections.
For the next
Or
question,
Abraham Adit.
for
Yep.
the next question, let us give Honorable a 1 minute break, take a water break, and then we can resume. Okay, for those of you who are listening in, so please, we will bring you up your question. Please, some of you who are in Clubhouse, write your question down there. I will not bring anybody up. But write your question up there, and then I'll bring you up. We'll read out your comment and your question. And those of you who are in Facebook, write your question there, and I will bring up your question, and then Robert will answer them. And those of you in YouTube too, you can write your question, and then we will bring your question up and will be answered. So that is just a brief update. And okay. Okay. So he's back, so you guys can resume with your discussion.
Thank you, Abraham Adit, and thank you, Honorable. The questions which you are supposed to tackle was the question of election. Before we go for a break, considering all these things happening in regard to the agreement, Honorable, and the extensions that has been done several times on this agreement, and I'm glad you mentioned it before, that the roadmap was made, and we were having our instincts were telling us different things. But we made it simple because we want to have ample time to have Chapter 2 implemented. That is security arrangement. And for the last 2 years of the extensions, we are still looking at Chapter 2, which is incomplete. And now the 2026 is almost approaching. And that is the time, the year where things should be arranged. Electoral commission should be in place. Census should have been done. And everything should have be at the right track. And all political leaders, including yourself, you said you are a presidential candidate. You should have been outside there campaigning and selling your own agenda in regard to your party. All political parties should have been now engaging in alliances and see which party should emerge with which to support themselves so that they can win the election. And this thing, again, especially the lack of political will many people refer to. Do you think election is possible by the end of roadmap, which is 2026? And if there will be no elections, what are the options South Sudanese have, especially the leadership? Do they have another roadmap too, or do they have another crutch elections, or what do they have in on their table rather? Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thanks for that question. Among so many South Sudanese who are worried about elections and the future, OPP is very much worried about that. To be very brief and very precise on this, Esther, if the situation continues the way it is now, there will be no possibility of holding elections. And if elections are not held in time, then whatever government that continues from thereafter, it will be illegitimate government. We will lack recognitions. And if elections are to happen, the only way for elections to happen is to make sure that parties get to dialogue as earlier as possible and as soon as they can, in order to save time. To save time from the time which has already been wasted. Now we have actually already wasted more than 6 months. Nothing touchable has happened since Nasser crisis. And I think that's why we said we need to dialogue very fast. The dialogue is not just basically to address the current uh, uh, crises that are happening, but it's important to fetch a way forward. By this time, the election commission should have actually come up with the electoral calendar, which can be followed with South Sudanese, including voter registration. And if you have not started voter registration by now, that means again people will have to find themselves at the same situation we find ourselves in previously by saying, let's extend because we cannot afford to throw the future of the country and have an illegitimate government. And that's why previously, as one of those who have opposed the extension, I asked, what is the new added value that will come in as far as the implementation is concerned? You will also continue to have lack of a political will, which is driven by the confusion which I was talking about, making everybody to believe once you talk of truth, giving each and every party their rights, then you perceive to be an enemy. And in fact, those people are the very enemy of the state and of the people of South Sudan. Because whatever actions and plan they are planning is unhealthy. And actually, they don't want anything that is a democratic process they don't want elections. They just wanted to keep the status quo and things move like that. So it's really very, very challenging. And that's why we need to exert a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. I know on the last extension, even previously, only the President Salva Kiir himself was left as a man that was willing for the country to go towards election. But his previous head and his previous ally and all the groups that were with him, from Martin Elia, Tut, and everyone, none wanted, all of them, they wanted extension of 2 years. So I always tell people, you need to be fair with your judgment as far as the future of the country is concerned. But if you limit it to yourself, you may not end up being the beneficiary. Others may be the beneficiary out of them. And quite a number of group of them, those who are opposing towards election, hoping for further extension time and again. Majority of them now are not in the government. Some of them are out, or some of them have actually been moved from one place to the other. So it's something that is not left upon OPP or my own opinion, but it's our duty, and my duty is to enlighten the public, to tell them, please, if we don't put a heavy pressure and demand for accountability and return of the parties back to the table to implement the agreements, you may not have election. And if you don't have elections, you are losing your legitimacy. And if you lose legitimacy, look at the other countries, what happened to them. And you look at our neighbors, how difficult the situation is with them. So it's a collective responsibility, and I think I will call for all of you to rally behind me so that we can continue giving enough pressure so that the right thing need to be done.
Thank you, Honorable Peter. I think Majok is a little busy there. If he will come back, we will let them resume with his question. Let me pick up where you stop about on Thursday. The UN Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan issued a statement that the peace agreement of 2018 is at risk for collapse. And they are calling for all parties to make sure that the peace will be served by doing the dialogue as your OPP, you are calling for the dialogue. And also, so my question regarding, you mentioned regarding about the issues of Nasser. This is what caused all of this in March. So what do you think, what is the root cause of the violence that occurred in March in Nasser that killed many lives of SSPDF? So, and you have seen about, can you give us what do you know about the incident in Nasser? Can you explain South Sudanese, because the White Army and the IO, SSPDF, they're involved into that, and we have seen many of SSPDF soldiers lost their life, including their families, including General David Majongdit and others. So tell us more about what do you know, what are the real evidence you have, and what is your response and the other political party that are the part of signature of R-ARCSS.
Okay, it's very to be very much honest, I may not have details or evidence or whatever information that could be valid as far as Nasser is concerned. But what I have is an opinion. So I will basically tell you my opinion. As far as the crisis of Nasser is concerned, the SPLM-IO need to be blamed, particularly on the first incident. But it has to be blamed as much as the principles of, you remember when we signed this agreement, we did not just come and sign it as that way it is. We started with what was called the cessation of hostility on the 17th of December. The cessation of hostility is a small booklet agreement, but it actually gives a lot of details into how the security arrangement. But there are two versions. The SPLM-IO, they have their versions of the story, and the government forces have their version to the story. But irrespective of those versions of their story, the massacre, the soldiers that were killed, including the Major General, it is painful. It is indeed painful. And the shift of blames and escaping from the truth, it's not healthy. SPLM-IO denying the White Army of affiliation, that they are not affiliated. It is not true. It's a fact. So these are things that people need to come into the table and clearly discuss it. And then if there are legal aspects that are involved that are not political issues, does not relate to the agreement, can still be discussed. So this is what have triggered the crisis. But so far, Dr. Riek is still in detention. There is no official statement into the cause and the allegations of his detention. And everyone is seated to wait anxiously to find out the reasons that are labels or accusations that are labeled, either through the court process or either through the investigation. But this one, what we are calling for a dialogue. And this dialogue, it paves way to discuss the issue of the Nasser crisis, which have actually triggered, and see how best such kind of issues can be avoided. And let us remind ourselves that there was a conflict that happened in 2013, and people were able to come back to table. It happened in 2016. It happened previously in history. So we do not want it to look at this Nasser crisis as absolutely an endless opportunity for an endless violation and trying to put the agreement into a series. Let's dialogue. The SPLMIO will bring in their versions. The SPLMIG will bring in their versions. The OPP will bring in their version of what they think. And also, the other parties will also bring in their versions of what they think. So all these uh, can be discussed clearly in a very transparent, audible manner, and then with an attitude that you are not trying to see or trying to blame on the past, what had happened in the past. Mr. X did this, Party A did this, Party B did this, but should be based on what is the way forward? How do we move forward? Because we have already lost life. Yes, if we have lost life, should we continue losing life? No, we should put a break. We should say, let's find a way to stop this bloodshed.
Absolutely. And also too, regarding about, as you have seen some of the government official, including Dr. Bolumel, they are arguing that we need one army in the country. What is your take regarding about one army to be, which is SSPDF, to be in the one army in the government and one commander in chief, because there are too many commander in chief. I don't know if OPP have in forces. I don't know if you're one of the commander in chief or not. But what I know, there are more than 7 or more of commander in chief in the country. And this is what lead this incident and this crisis in the country, because everybody comes says that I am stronger, I have the forces, I can point a finger at the government, which is what I was doing. And the SSPDF now, they're complaining that said that we need only SSPDF. And the other forces, they need integrate into SSPDF. So what is your response to that, for the country to have a one army?
Actually, that is not just a call from the Vice President Ballmill. It is actually what the agreement says. What caused the 2015 agreement to fail was the existence of two army. We rejected that. And actually upon the establishment of the command. So all these commander-in-chief should have ceased to exist. Dr. Riak cannot be a first vice president, and yet he continued to be the commander-in-chief. So once this joint command council was inaugurated and was established, now the remaining process is the training and making sure phase 1 is finished, phase 2 is finished until the times agreed comes in. So having existing any army outside this framework is illegal. So this is what the agreement says. And this is what particularly actually where the SPLMIG have their rights on that, and which they don't need to take their rights into their own, they don't need to take the law into their own hands, but actually also calling the grantors on the peace agreement, the grantors, and says this is the violation that happens, and I think this need to be addressed. So this is basically what they, and even if we can't go even towards elections with those multiple army that continue to exist. So the security process and the security arrangements need to be tackled as what it is stated in the agreements. You don't even need to move outside, because once you move outside, once you bring your own interpretations, then you make things very difficult.
Thank you. Majog, are you there? Do you have any question regarding about the peace agreement and other things, so I can move to the next question? Okay, so let me move to the next question regarding about Honorable Peter Mayen. My next question regarding about your hometown, Warab State. There has been a violence going on in Warab State for the past few years. Many people are dying. especially from in Toy they've been killing each other. And a couple of weeks ago, you have seen President issues a state of emergency in Warab State and also in Unity State. And forces have been sent for disarmament. Those youth who have illegal arm to be armed. And SSPD put out the press statement 2 days ago that saying that they give the youth 7 days to give their weapons peacefully in Warab State and Unity State. And for that 7 days, if they are not responding, the SSPD will use the forceful disarmament. What is your opinion, your take regarding about because let us focus with what happens in your hometown, because where is the violence been going on? Why is it you leaders of Warab State, if I'm mistaken, correct me, from I know. So why is it the leaders of Warab, there are so many of governors has been changed, and the problem is not fixed? What the leaders of Warab, Sultan, the youth leaders, and Sarara, and the president himself as from Warab, hometown. What you guys can be done to bring peace in Warab State? What can you guys can be done? And who's responsible for the crisis in Warab? Are the political leaders are involved into this? If so, why is it the government of state government and the leaders cannot hold these individuals accountable to be brought in, so that the people of the innocent civilian in Warab State cannot be dying every day? So go ahead, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, there's nothing to be corrected about. We all hail from that area, and this is our area of birth. All the leaders beginning from the president and so many other leaders. The situation of Warab itself state is basically dynamic and conflicts in its nature that is not really much has to do with the national issues, but it's more centered on communal and conflict within the communal basis. Where we have now conflict is not the all part of Warab, is actually the Tony. If you know, Warab is composed of the two former districts, the Gogrial, the Greater Gogrial, and the Greater Tony. Of course, we couldn't clearly articulate and give a reason into those conflicts. But I'll give you my perceptions of what I perceive as far as the communal and sectional conflicts are, not just from the Warab perspective, but generally. I do view all this to be completely senseless conflict. So all this conflict that happens in all the communal conflict is absolutely senseless, and it lacks vision, lacks meaning. Rather than just people lose life, people are losing their lives. The leadership that could do that much of work, it is the state leadership. Previously, the appointment had happened to several state governors, but having observed, most of them have not met the expectation and what is needed from them. Most of them went and focused on other issues rather than addressing the security situation, engaging with the grassroots, and helping those conflicts, to help those areas where we have conflict. But I think, in my perception and my understanding, there's a need to call for a greater tone, peace conference, so that those issues can be ironed out and people could see. We are all eyeing on the new governor, which he doesn't come from Tony, he comes from Greater Gokrial. And we are watching his move on a daily basis of how best this issue could be addressed. As far as disarmament, we support disarmament. It's part and parcel of the agreement, and I don't think there's any way we could oppose this the disarmament process that is happening, because it's only those who are entitled, those who have the right to have those to possess guns, to have guns and weapons. These are the ones that deserve to have those. So we support the disarmament, and we actually looking forward that the new leadership needed to be supported with the last appointed governor, and then we also see that calling for a peace conference for Greater Towing could really perhaps help as other means to address this communal conflict.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so thank you. I think we have come to conclude. My last question is regarding about, we have seen in the news that I don't know if it is, but we always, but I want to have this one to you so that we can hear from yourself. So we have been seeing the news that you said that you have quit drinking. Is this true?
Yeah, indeed. It is true for very obvious personal reason. Basically, alcohol is a drink, uh, and uh, and it's not unique in any sense. But what I have found, and many would have found that alongside with drinking comes other issues and complication issues, including the fact that you can lose your place and respect before the community. And I think it was good that I sat down with myself, with my family, and I think South Sudanese needed me for a bigger mission, and that I cannot meet the inspirations with a divided mind, with a divided intention. So I have actually quit for sure, yeah, and I've quit for life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for being honest. It's very rare to see the political leaders or anybody in South Sudan admit that what you're doing. So I quit drinking, and this is a part of healing. And this is, I think, this is a very good that you come in public and announce what you went through. Like, this is the part of healing. About if you admit that your addiction, alcoholic, and then you say that here is what I went through and this is what I'm doing. This is a part of process of healing, and I hope the leaders and the people in South Sudan who are addicted to alcohol should learn from this, because when you say that enough is enough, and I want to change my life around, you will be doing. One of myself, when I was like 20 years ago or 23 years ago, I used to smoke. I used to smoke cigarette. And when I become realize that, okay, tobacco is not a good thing, it's bad for my health, I need to quit it. I take that decision. And 3 years without smoking is really good. So, and it's really good. So, and for that, we thank you so much, Honorable Peter Mayen, for coming to Lex Media for and give your perspective regarding about what's going on in our country, and also on your personal that you quit drinking. That's a good thing. Before I let you go, I will give you this chance to put in your last statement. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you can put in your last word if you want to. Your closing remark.
I think my last statement will be basically I really wanted to encourage South Sudanese to speak to you at heart that it's really important for us to broaden our perspective beyond personal hatred, beyond political affiliations, beyond tribes, and look at the things in a very objective manner, bearing in mind that the future of our country depends on us. So it's not a question of supporting any political leader or any organization or any sections, but it's basically doing what is right to South Sudanese. So my statements here, I mean it, and I'm not doing in favor of anything, but basically this is the right thing need to be done. So I call on you to support my comeback in this political engagement, so that at least your country is delivered and the future relies of how best this agreement can be implemented and how best we can usher in a new democratic era with an elected government in place. And continue to support me, and I encourage you. I'm also very open, and I'm also ready to admit any mistakes that I have done in the past for any reasons that I have done. So I am here for you to deliver the services that I need and to make sure that our future of our country is delivered. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Peter Mayen Majongdit. We really appreciate Mayen Majongdit, I mean. So we really appreciate for coming to Lake Media and give us a update the South Sudanese what's happening, and also talk about the stage of the R-ARCSS. And also we are calling for peace, for all the leaders to come for the dialogue. As you said, that dialogue is very important. A war gun cannot solve the issues, but peace, sit down. We urge all the political leaders in the South Sudan to sit down, to having a dialogue, to have the lasting peace. People of South Sudan need a peace, the lasting peace. And I hope your call, and now that we open, Lake Media is open for all political leaders to come to this platform, because dialogue is very important, communication is very important. So, and that's what would bring peace in the country. So thank you so much, Honorable Peter Mayen, for coming, and we will bring you back again as we continue to for the phase of the peace in South Sudan and the dialogue. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for coming, for listening in, and thank you everyone. Have a good day. Thank you.